We did some live calls to sellers, which turned out really good. So I'm actually going to call some contractors just off KSL and go through how we vet them. We want to do a role play with some contractors here as well on what we do at the first site visit to really figure out if we want to work with somebody or not. Having a that you know it all, or can you forget about that, or oh, I don't need to do that anymore because I'm too good. That's when it's going to come back and bite you in the butt. So let's see here. Got anything?
We got a framer / carpenter.
Okay. So what I'm going to do is you need to be quiet, and because if you talk too loud, he's gonna hear it. These guys don't know we're calling them. I didn't even know who I'm calling either. That's the fun part, though. Just keep searching. I'll go on to the next subject. If we can maybe circle back to it, but let's spray through the.
Question real fast.
Yeah.
I'm new. What is the purpose of calling a contract? What are you trying to find out from them?
What I'm trying to find out is if I want to work with them. And the phone call is the first step. You don't want to just call a contractor, say, oh, I need you to come bid this job, because they could just be completely wasting your time. What we do is we get a couple contractors and we vet them on the phone first to see if it's even worth them coming out to see the property. And then once we have a couple, because you'll see in this business, as soon as you find a couple good ones, you'll use them on a couple projects, the prices might start to hike up, or they get busy with somebody else because they're good, or they just get cocky and they're not as good anymore. Like you will constantly be trying to find good people. Whether, we had a painter that we had for 6 years. We had, who else? The window guy we still use. So I've had a window guy for 9 years. That's lucky. But everyone else, throughout any other sub the whole entire time, we have been swapping out and finding new ones, and they've fallen off or they disappear. Move back to a different country. Who knows? One of our good guys, a good handyman, moved back to Guatemala. I made enough money. We probably paid him too much, I guess, right? We could fly back and go support his family. So. Just tons of reasons, but for whatever reason, you're going to have to constantly be, cultivating and even if you have good ones, trying to find better ones out there. So back to the question, the purpose of the call, so you don't waste time, having just junk guys come out to the property. So that's why I wanted to do a couple of live ones. Are you free to search for some stuff? Yeah. Okay, just keep searching. Hopefully he finds some. But I'll move on to the next section as soon as he gets some, then we can go with that. So, how we wanted it to go is from start to finish. So I wanted to do some calls, do some live calls, we'll switch it around. And then the next part was to actually do some role playing up here. So do we have any contractors in the room right now? Anyone that does any contracting, painting, handyman, anything like that? Okay, do you mind coming up and doing a little role play with us? Be a little step outside your comfort zone? Okay, well let's go. We'll dive into the role play. If you want to come down, what do you do? What kind of contracting?
Mostly drywall.
Okay, cool. We'll come on down and we'll do the role play. Any other ones? Don't be scared now that you're doing the role play.
I'm not a contractor, but really quick, where are you finding them down there?
We're just going off of KSL. Yeah, he's just searching online, KSL, Craigslist, that type of thing. I mean, there's a lot of places you can find them. Go on to like Angie's List too, Cody. Angie's List, KSL, Craigslist, Red Beacon. Yeah, Red Beacon, Cody. So he'll just be searching in the meantime. We figured it wouldn't be hard to find any, but I guess the market's picking up so much that people aren't putting ads out there anymore. So, all right, everyone, welcome down to
Eric.
Eric. All right, give a big round of applause for Eric. So thank you for volunteering. I pressured you a little bit. Try to spice up the meetings a little bit more, make it more interactive for people. So, but we do not have anyone else that's a contractor in here. Now they're all scared because they know what they're all right, so Cody, you can switch me here. Cody's going to do the role play. We're just going to pretend like he's on a project. Cody, we're really going to make it up. So let's just go through with the scenarios. This drywall contractor, let's pretend it's Ranch View. We just did a house up in Olympus Cove, Ranch View Drive, so just to give you guys some context of what this pretend situation is going to be. It was a 1,500 square foot home that we basically tore down to the studs. We just kept the outer casing and the original foundation. We added about 1,000 square feet to it in additions, and it's been framed, plumbed, electrical, and now we're getting a bid for the drywall. And Cody's going to walk through, meeting at the site, what he does. I'll just have him do his thing. That's kind of the best way to do it. And then afterwards, I'll kind of go through and hit on the points of why he did certain things. And even if, I'm not going to make him or say he's going to do it perfect every time, but even if he misses some things, I'll cover that too and say, here's where it could have gone better, because no one's perfect. So we'll go ahead and do it.
All right, so first thing I do when I walk in the project is obviously meet the guy. So Cody Chan, really nice to meet you. How are you? Tell me a little bit more about your business.
Family business, been in business since the 70s. Took over from my dad about 12 years ago. I got one crew pretty much, and I've got a couple of the guys that I work with that sub by any means sometimes we're not too.
Very cool. Let me tell you a little bit about our company. We've been remodeling almost about 6 years. I've been involved with the remodel project for about 6 years as well. And we like to have guys who show up on time. They work 6 to 5 most of the time. Most of the time, sometimes weekends. We like to keep a really clean job site. And the cool thing about our company is we do so many projects a year, and we have so many referrals coming to us that I'm able to keep you super busy if you can help me get our prices to where they need to be and make sure the project is finished on time. Is that something that you would be interested in working with me on?
Yeah, I'm interested.
Okay, cool. Why don't we walk around the project? So at that time, obviously, walk through the project, see if it's something he's interested in. I'm always looking to see if the contractor seems like he knows what he's talking about. I've been around contractors long enough, I can tell if it's the guy who seems like he's reputable and actually is, or someone who doesn't really know what they're doing. So let me ask you a little bit more. So after I've walked the project with our contractor, I want to start asking some questions to learn more about the way he handles his business. What's your policy on paying your subcontractor? I guess this would be more in a general contractor situation. I don't need a lot of subs anymore, but
I still hire subs.
still hire subs. Okay. So what's your policy on paying your subcontractors?
I pay my subs and then I get paid from you.
Okay, so they're on like a weekly draw or hourly?
Depends on how they. Yeah, I usually try to pay in footage.
Okay.
Cool. A lot of time by the foot, and they have their own licenses. They're always licensed.
Cool. Are you licensed to insure yourself?
Absolutely.
Okay. In your past, what type of projects have you done? What's the biggest project you've ever done, and what's like the average price of a remodel?
Well, we used to do some multi-million-dollar homes back in the day. Really big monsters out in Draper, and we haven't done a whole lot of those the last little while. We've done mostly remodel of the sugar house type area.
Gotcha.
Moved up into that.
Okay.
So we're doing a lot of stuff where it's just the old plaster and we're tying together the old stuff. There's not a lot of people that know how to do that, and we do.
That's awesome. So I'm assuming you're pulling permits through your process.
Yeah, they're usually full already.
Yeah, for the general contractors.
If I was general, I would, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, one thing with our company, we always pull every permit possible. We play it by the book. We never want to run into a situation where we sell a home and we get a phone call, hey, this wasn't done correctly. With drywall, a little bit different. Yeah, I mean, obviously it was electrical and plumbing.
Yeah, they're usually already on the permit.
Awesome. So as far as our pay structure, we pay our guys every 2 weeks. You submit a bid on the 30th and the 14th, and we cut you a check at that time. It's a pretty straightforward process. Yeah, so that's pretty much it. I mean, you just run through, you really want to make sure you understand who they are, what they've done before. References is always good. I always try and determine what they've done before, and if they can give me some people to call to see how they work for them. I've made that, well, I know I need to do that because I've made that mistake before. We hired a general contractor about 1.5 years ago, and he did a project for us, and he seemed reputable, seemed like a good guy. I met him, I went through the whole vetting process, but the project ended up lasting 4 months longer than it should have, and come to find out, some people had worked with him before, and they had the same exact problem. So if I would have done my homework a little bit more on the guy, probably wouldn't have run into this problem. it was the most expensive remodel we've ever done as well. So getting your guys and your contractors on smaller projects and kind of working them through the stages is always recommended too. Yeah, your question?
Hey, Connor, just two quick questions. Number one, let's say, for example, you go down that path, you vetted your contractor, but the project is just not going well, there's just not the love there. How do you terminate somebody effectively?
Yeah, that's always a fun one.
Okay, and then the second problem is just quickly, okay, well, you guys have to
You're good to go. Thanks for coming out. Yeah, so firing a contractor, again, back to that same situation on that project we were doing. 2 or 3 months into it, we identified problems that we were seeing. We were so busy at the time. We had 3 other generals going, like 10 other projects. So I wasn't in a position to fire him right on the spot. And he had every excuse in the book, yada, yada, yada. But with firing a contractor, we make sure in all of our contracts, it's very outlined that we have the ability to terminate a contractor for really any reason that we feel that he needs to be fired for. So we've done it, and my recommendations for doing that is make sure you're on site with the guys. You tell them to get all their tools out, and make sure they get all their tools out, and change the lockbox and all the locks immediately, so you don't have someone coming back and causing damage to your project.
And then the follow-up question was, a lot of contractors that work across the country, typically it's a remark on our programs, they want 30%, want 50%. How do you handle that?
I've actually never ran into that with any of the contractors that we've used before. We make it very clear how our pay schedule works. I've got one general contractor now. We trust him enough where at the beginning of the project he can submit an invoice that's basically his first draw schedule, and that allows him to buy all his materials. And we trust that he will use that money for buying the materials for our project, not allocating it somewhere
So
else.
how does it work? He gives you a scope document sometimes, basically specs the material you're home, so.
Yep.
And then you actually write it to the Home Depot?
We'll write the check directly to him.
You cut the check to him.
Yep, we used to, back when I managed all the subs, we would be paying Home Depot. I'd be ordering the windows, I'd be ordering the paint. It just became an accounting nightmare when you have 10, 15 projects on the go. So we got to the point where we just have a general contractor, we work specifically with him, and then we let him take care of his funds. And that's a good point, actually. That was my next thing, is the scope of work. You want to make sure that your scope of work is as thorough as possible. I'll spend 6, 7 hours at home. Good. Questions?
Yeah, my question is, if you're using a general versus like kind of managing a bunch of handyman guys yourself, what's the profit margin of the, and how much more expensive would the project have to be?
For the general contractor, so what we do is we do a cost plus a fee. So it's open book accounting. He'll submit his scope of work with line item on every, windows, carpet, blah, blah, blah. And then we start our contractors at usually 6% of the total remodel cost. And we promise them if they can perform through 4 or 5 projects and do a good job, get it done on time for us, we're willing to pay them up to 10%. So our contractor right now is at 10%.
Does that include an hourly wage for him who's on the job?
He's,
Put in framing or whatever?
yeah, we're factoring that 10% covers any work that he does himself.
Yeah, he knows what timelines he has to hit, and he'll go into contracts and how we manage that and everything. But it's up to him. It's not like he can bill us at the end of the project and say, well, I did the framing and I did some of the finished work, so I get my 10% plus that. It's like, no, you bid the project. You can do it a bunch of different ways, but how we found it to be easiest is they bid the contractor, GC bids the project. We get a breakdown of where all of the different costs are associated with, so we can, if we think it's out of whack, and it's like, why is electrical 10 grand, that shouldn't be there, then we negotiate almost every single bid we get for the most part, because we know what it costs. So, and if you don't know what it costs, talk to somebody that does, even if you have to pay for it, because even if somebody that, is more experienced than you can save you some money, it's worth the expertise. And for when we first started, for those of you first starting, I kind of faked it till I made it kind of thing. I just show up and just act like I knew what I was talking about. And because because the worst thing you can do with some contractors that are shady is just play it that you're dumb and you just ask a lot of dumb questions. I was just very short so that if it got into a situation where I didn't know the answer or they started going too far into it, I just go on to the next subject. I mean, you know, really don't be afraid. Like, don't let not knowing stop you from doing it. That's one of the big things. Just in business in general, a lot of people don't get into it because they're just afraid. Oh, what? I might look stupid, or I might say the wrong thing. Well, you'll learn from that. That's how you're gonna learn.
Yeah, that's a good point
Quick
from,
follow-up.
Yeah.
Your 6 to 10%, does that include his portion and all the subs underneath it?
Yeah. So everything that he bids on a project is broken down by like electrical, plumbing, framing, drywall, all that kind of stuff, okay? And so that includes what he's paying his guys. His 8 to 10% is what he takes. We have a pretty open book policy with him, and the reason we're paying 10% is because if he saves on framing, he's not pocketing it. That comes back to us. And he's a partner with us. That takes a while to get there. And I don't say official partner, like not inviting he's as a partnership, but we've created the relationship that we're going to help him, he's going to help us, and if we end up saving money on the project, we'll take care of him, or we know that we're going to need to allot it somewhere else, and we'll allot it somewhere else. So he's pretty open book with us about it. You know, and little things like having a good contractor that you can trust that's not going to like steal all the leftover supplies at the end of the project that he ordered, you know, 8 boxes too many a tile, and he's just going to save it and sell it to somebody or whatever. That comes to us, or we leave that in the property, at least a box, because if people break tile, they need replacement, and the tile goes out of not out of service, but out of supply. And so we'll leave paint behind. We like to leave at least a little bit of all that stuff, but a lot of contractors, they'll just take it all. And it's like, someone who does that just shows the kind of person that, you know, it's something so obvious that what are they doing that we wouldn't notice, you know? And so that, as the rehabber, can really come back and bite me in the ass, because if they're doing shady stuff, that contractor's off the job, his name's not on it, he's on to the next one, and then you're left with the mess to clean up if something happens, like at the end of the remodel, or when they do their inspection, or this or that. You know, and that's not good. I mean, the ref sheet is sell as it is. The property's sold as is. That's all fine and dandy, but if something's bad enough, someone will sue you. And the city isn't very big, so we take care of the people. If it's very obvious it was our bad, and it's a couple $100, like we're just going to take care of it.
yeah, he fixed us some a
last
week ago. That was a project we did a year and a half ago.
Yeah.
Just because we felt that we were responsible for it.
Yeah, and it was his wedding weekend. His wedding was in 3 days. Sump pump comes out, hasn't even used the basement. Family comes in for the wedding. No questions asked, to just jump on it, because that guy's going to send us business now. Because he said, wow, you guys stood behind, I didn't know if I could trust that. You guys said you were going to take care of stuff when it came up. But we did the research. We got an inspector out there, like a sump pump guy out there, and it was our general contractor's fault. And it was clearly our fault, so we took care of it. So.
Yeah, so scope of work, like I was mentioning, I'll spend 6 to 8 hours on each project before we can start going through and defining exactly what it is we're going to do. Because if you don't have a clear definition of what you're trying to achieve in your remodel, it just goes to hell at the end.
I think that's probably one of the most important things that nobody does. Because that's like setting expectations. And if a contractor doesn't follow or doesn't do what he says he's going to do, you can't really come down on him if you never gave clear expectations up front of what it was about. And then it just becomes an argument back and forth of he said, she said, and it accomplishes nothing. We have constantly been improving our design packet and our scope of work to try and avoid any of those problems. But don't just like have him bid it and then just that's it. Okay, put in what you want. Like you have no idea what his idea of good means versus what your idea of good means. Or you know, just okay, isn't it obvious that all the hardware in the whole house should match? Not to some people, it's not. Yeah, it's like, you know, all silver hinges, chrome hardware on the doors, and then gold faucets. Like, no, that doesn't work if you're doing it on a brand new home.
Yeah, so what what we do is we come up with that scope of work, we sit down, we discuss it with the contractor, and then we sign off and agree upon what's going to be done, who's going to be doing it, and who's responsible for what. I guess you pulled that design back.
Yeah, let's
We kind of showed you, we tried to systemize everything we're doing. We got to the point where we're designing like custom homes and it became quite a nightmare. So we decided to take our 3 very favorite fixtures, very favorite tile, carpet, and put them into a packet. And we can just sit down and design a home in like 5 minutes. We'll sit down on the iPad, circle which ones we want, that goes into the scope of work. The contractor's able to actually click on the image and order the selection right there. So we include that with our scope of work. It's all cut and dried from the beginning. We sign our contracts, and then they can run with it, and it eliminates headaches throughout the project. I mean, you're still going to get that phone call, hey, I don't know what color you want this, blah, 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 blah. But the more you can define it up front, the smoother your process is through the end of it. So this is our design packet, our most recent design packet. And you can see it's got, these are our 3 exterior light fixture selections. It's got a name, where to get them, a price. You can actually click right on it and it'll take you to the website where you can purchase it. So we sit down, like I said, you just sign on the iPad on a PDF editing program, and we can design a house very quickly. So we've got everything from carpet, paint, to cabinet hardware included in this packet, which eliminated a lot of headaches. At first we were doing homes where we buy everything from Home Depot, but then we kind of stepped it up and did a little bit higher price range, and this allowed us to still be able to choose things quickly.
Yeah, and even if you're still at Home Depot, I mean, a lot of people are, we kind of have a little bit higher level, but you can still do this like on 3 different levels of what you're going to do. We like it because we don't like every property to look the exact same, but even if it's one contractor pack versus the other, or lights, you can still do something like this, but even if you're going to do the same one every time, it definitely saves you some time to do some type of packet up front and have people, like, we have 3 or 4 choices, we circle it and everybody signs off on it, so that if there's ever an argument, it's you got a signature, you got a picture, like, what's the issue? There's no conversation after that, If there's an argument, like we've had it happen on multiple houses where a contractor messed up, and it's so much cooler to show up to the contractor, pull it up, and everybody goes, okay, we'll get things. It's the coolest thing ever compared to just deteriorating a relationship to the point that it's not even be salvageable.
Same thing with the scope of work. You get a change order submitted for 8 can lights in the master bedroom, and you're like, wait a minute, this is outlined in the scope of work. You signed it, you agreed upon it. It should have been included in your bid. They're bound to taking care of that.
Hey, Tony, how do you hold your contractors accountable? I remember a situation where like $15,000 for the doors and windows, and Anderson had a big rebate. Okay, and I found out about it, but I thought that the contractor should have either passed some of that savings along or done something. So with so many rebates and incentives out there, how do you continue to manage that and put that in the contract and then pass it along and save it?
Yeah, so that's a good point. Electrical can lights, we do the LED cans in every house. We get $20 back per fixture for those. I just make it very clear up front. It's, we understand there's a rebate for this, and this, insulation, electrical. So as soon as your subcontractor purchases these can lights, I need to get the Home Depot receipt from you. And I've actually got a checklist where our virtual assistant's sending out an email 2 weeks into the project reminding the contractor that he needs to do that for us.
So in actuality, how do you get that process to work? Because for me, that's my perfect match.
With my contractors, I've never really had an issue with it. Well, I've had one contractor who never responded, but it was the guy at that fire. So, kind of given, but.
So you back that basically close your contract with the contractor provide receipts?
I don't have that in our contract, but the contractors, it's probably a good thing to actually include. That's a good point. But the contractor I have right now, I don't have any issues with it. So he understands that we're going to take the rebate back because we're the one paying for it. So, which contracts? Can you pull the contracts? It's in the same media.
Oh, it is.
Yeah. So contracts. Anytime I have to put a contract into place, it's come back and hit me in the end. So we had a painter one time that we did not have a contract on, didn't have a finish date, and he just never finished the project. We had to get somebody else. We had to get the house out. So we've got a standard contract that if you guys are interested in, you can contact us. We can maybe help you put these together.
Just wanted to know.
You go down, that's the auto page. So basically, I mean, you can read it here. It just introduces our company, what we do, how our process goes, and then on the next couple of pages, it outlines, deadlines, penalties, and bonuses. We bonus and penalize our contractors. We give them a week grace period. So let's say, the finish date, the agreed upon finish date is August 10th. He has till the 10th to finish the project, and then a 7-day grace period where there's no bonuses or penalties. So if he finishes on the 9th, we'll pay him $200 extra. If he finishes on the 18th, he's now getting penalized $200. So that's an incentive for them to finish the project on time, because that $200 a day is really adequate.
You guys put retention in your contracts?
Say that again?
You put retention in your contracts?
We don't.
And like one thing to hit on this too is that you don't have to do all this, okay? I would suggest at least a contract for sure, because otherwise you have, I can't tell you how many people just in the industry, whether they were a homeowner or an investor or an agent or whatever, that I've heard stories, half down, they give the contractor 25 grand, contractor's gone. It happens like a lot. And yeah, a contract's not going to necessarily stop someone from doing that, but they're definitely going to think twice, and it's about protecting yourself. And along the lines of like, we beefed it up a little bit more because how professional you are and set the tone is also going to dictate and influence how professional the people are that you work with. They're going to step their game up if they know that you're serious. So you may not be at that level right now. You don't have to be at that level to do this business, but it's something to shoot for, and know that the more you step your level up, you're going to attract those types of people. You're going to attract better contractors. I mean, most of the contractors we have worked with found us for the most part. They, we either ran into them or they found us. They saw our work. They're like, I want to work with those guys. And so it's really nice. I mean, I really believe in the law of attraction, and that's, there's no exception to that rule here, I think, for us at least. We're not the line in the sand for the rules here, but.
Yes, does anybody else have any questions on that kind of whole process? And we're going to go with a couple horror stories for that.
So if you call you, will you fax this to us so we can have it available?
Yeah, I can provide you with a PDF version of it. Sure.
230-520?
Yep.
We don't use that. I'm just kidding.
That's my phone number. But our fax number is 801-931-2331.
Right on the board we have here, we've got right on the board, please?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'll just put my email up and phone number, and then I can send it to you guys.
Cody, is there any particular kind of insurance you maintain during the project?
We don't answer that. Yeah. He's our insurance guy.
And he's a sponsor tonight. So Cody is a sponsor. You want to just stand up real quick to talk about it? Just, go for it.
For what kind of insurance we get?
Basically, what kind of liability coverage can we purchase? Let's say, for example, that the general contractor basically has a shortfall, getting workers' comp coverage. Any attorney's probably going to join us in the legal suit. So how do we protect ourselves? Employees on the job site pull off a ladder, pull off a can, something like that. What's the tool that we would use to ensure that risk?
The best thing you can do is make sure, A, your property is insured correctly, whether it's a fix and flip, make sure it's on a vacant home policy. If it's a rental, put on a landlord policy. So just make sure that's insured properly. For the general contractors that are coming to do work for you guys, you want to be on their policy. So you want to be a certificate holder, but if you really want to protect yourself, be an additional insured on their policy. And that way, you don't have to wait for the general contractor to submit the claim. You now are an additional insured. You can call in and submit the claim form on their behalf.
You talking about on the contractors, no insurance?
Well, there's a mission that the professional liability is what the contractor wants. There's a mission not really going to cover a whole heck of a lot. You want the professional liability.
So when you signed a contract with him to do your remodel, you said, oh yeah, and I need to be an additional insured for this X number timeline.
Correct. Because if they caused the fire, or if they caused the guy that came out and you hired a guy to sprinkle, he dug a hole and he put a big hole in the ground to fix the sprinkler line, and the guy falls in and breaks his hip, they're probably going to sue the person that owns the home. They're not really going to sue the contractor. Well, you're going to go back and say, hey, contractor, I'm an additional insured. And you can call in right now and say, hey, I'm going to make a claim on behalf of this general contractor, essentially. Now, does that make sense?
And don't mess around with the insurance, guys. Like, it's not a question of if, it's a question of when you're gonna have to use insurance. If you're gonna do more than 1 or 2 of these, I mean, even then, I mean, it just happens. So,
We've used it before.
we have. I mean, we had a guy almost cut his arm off on a table saw. We had a flood that happened. Don't try and pull the thing where you get the cheaper insurance because you're only going to have it for 3 to 6 months and nothing's going to happen. As soon as you do that, it's just what can go wrong will go wrong. Especially, his rates are ridiculous, so it was a no-brainer for us when we found him, but it's just not worth it. I mean, I have used way too much insurance money in my life, that's for sure. It's just worth it. I mean, we had a rehab that we finished. The day we finished, Josh shows up to the property, or you can go in there for that one time, and he calls me in the morning. I'm in like Arizona on vacation. He goes, "You got a big flood." And I'm just like, So washer and dryer in the top level of the house. Finished the remodel 3 days before. I think Josh was just going to check it out to see how, what kind of remodel we did. And there was, 6 inch, yes, furnace motor went out. Furnace, or heater coil or something. The air was blowing, but just no hot air. Middle of the winter, pipes burst, whole house flooded. Cost more to fix the water damage than it did to do the whole entire remodel in the first place. Luckily, it was a good insurance policy, right insurance policy. We ended up being able to do the work for cheaper than what they quote, so it kind of covered our extra holding costs. But because they just, you can either have them do it or you just do it and get the check. That's probably the better way if you have good subs. But don't mess around with that stuff, that's for sure. Any other questions before we move on to the next section?
Okay, another thing about insurance, when you're hiring the contractor subs, how do you know if they're insured?
Building the relationships, we trust our contractor that does that. I mean, you check every one of them.
I don't check every sub. I used to when I managed all the subs, but now the general contractor, he's in charge of that.
Yeah, so when he was the project manager, even when I was, it was make sure they have it. That's one of the questions on the phone call, to even see if you want them to show up. A lot of people don't use licensed and insured anything. That's a personal choice. That's our choice. It's just, I'd rather pay a little bit more and buy the right deal. And when I'm working my numbers, I'm not going to work off of smaller numbers so I can make a deal happen. And then I have to use guys that aren't insured. Just buy houses right so you can use the right guys.
One of the safeguards to that too is pulling our permits, every electrical, every plumbing, there has to be a licensed electrician or plumber on the permit, and then they're coming and passing it off, so that's one way to safeguard that a little bit.
Yeah, and I know a lot of guys aren't doing that in the valley. It's a personal choice, but when you get to a certain point, I think it's smart to make that choice. That's for sure.
So any other questions?
Do you guys pull the permit ahead of time, or do you have every contractor do that?
Contractor does it, but now, our contractor's almost in-house general contractor now. So as soon as we lock the property down and we're past the due diligence period, he starts to submit paperwork. We get every house drawn up, so we have a good set of plans. Even if it's a small remodel, we run into that issue before. If you're not clear about where every cam light's going to go, if you're going to move a door here or there, it just makes it easier to have the house drawn for $300 and then just submitting that with.
Yeah, $300 to get the house drawn, you can get the walls drawn, you can get layouts drawn. And that, again, then there's no question when something goes wrong. Plans, they don't have to be $10,000 plans from an architect. You can go get somebody that does this on the side or whatever, but is trained in it and can do it and at least just have plans.
Who does that on the side?
Who?
Yeah, Josh and I were wondering,
Who's
because Tim wouldn't ask the question.
Becky, something.
I've got her number.
Yeah, if you guys need it, email him. But she's awesome. She just runs out to the property. We tell her what we want. She draws it up. So
She actually will give some design ideas as well. She's a designer, so if you have an issue with one of your bathrooms, you don't know how you reconfigure it, she'll actually provide ideas for that as well.
Yeah. And we do a lot of design ourselves, but we just relay it to her, and she does a lot of it. So it's awesome. What does she like? Stay at home on or something? I'm not even sure, but yeah.
She lives in Wyoming.
Yeah. So one other thing on the permits that came to mind as he was talking. One other thing you got to watch out for nowadays, especially in nicer markets, nicer areas, is appraisers sometimes won't even appraise a house if it didn't have permits pulled. It's becoming more and more common. So That's a predicament. It does not happen all the time. It's not like happening often. But I've heard like 3 or 4 occasions where a house just, the whole deal falls apart, they can't sell it because it doesn't have permits on the property when the remodel is done.
Usually if it doesn't look professional, it's the only time I've seen that.
Yeah, exactly. So you just gotta watch out.
What did Randall say
What did you
again?
say?
He said usually when it doesn't look professional, like that's a red flag for them, and then they'll go look it up, but yeah, that's when you have to worry about it, is when it doesn't look like a good remodel, like it was done and piecemeal together type of thing.
Hey, Matt?
Yeah.
Just a quick question. I had a conversation with Rick when East Coast about one of our properties, and he said that he basically, we did a significant rehab, and I would basically argue back and forth in terms of the DPA value of the property listed. And he said because of the age of the property, we're not going to get full appreciated value for the improvements we made to the house we built in 1960. That was the first time I ever heard of that. Is that pretty typical?
I haven't had that happen. I mean, when you look at a CMA on the MLS, it's going to give you a discount if you're comparing it against the property that was built in like 2005 or 2010. It's going to give you, it's going to outlaw a certain amount for that. But the key is to compare like property against like property. So take a 1970s home, and if your home's 1970 and they're both updated, then there's going to be no difference. But many times I'm not going to compare a 1970s home, even though I gutted the whole thing and it's brand new. I'm not going to use a 2005 home as a comp. I just won't. And many appraisers won't either. And the only way they would is if they have to. There's nothing else to compare it to. But I don't discount too much on year built, as long as it's within 10 or 20 years. But once you're getting outside of that, not even 10 or 20, but more so new homes, homes built after the 80s, 80, 90
Yeah,
is
because
when
it's
I
not part of the
stopped.
situation. There's not a lot of inventory, and there's fewer houses that remodel. So although it was a 1960s vintage house,
Yeah.
it's good. I mean, really good stuff.
Yeah.
It's been completely remodeled.
And some people like that more.
Exactly.
Some people like the character and having all the new stuff in it. So,
So my argument was, look, I'd rather have a house built in the 60s that had better material.
Yeah.
A hell of a lot better material than what's being
Yeah.
built today.
Yeah.
Plus we had all this other green stuff.
Yep.
Okay. So again, I just was pushing on that argument. I want to see.
Yeah.
It's kind of a beautiful thing, I guess.
yeah, it is. And I haven't personally ran into it. I get the argument for it, but there's an argument against it. And so to that note, on many, not as much anymore, but when the market was in its recovery, I would show up to every appraisal and make sure they were educated. And if they had that question, I was combating that and changing their mind. So we ran into a couple of appraisal issues, which is why I started to do that. And it wasn't like, hey, I know everything, here's all the information. It's like, let's chat about it and let's make sure we're on the same page with this. Sometimes it's a 5-minute conversation, sometimes it's a 30-minute conversation, but yeah. Yeah.
Thanks.
Just a quick question. If you're working with your contractor on a cost-plus basis, he bids out the job to begin with, how do you handle it? I mean, is he bidding the sub-costs, and his is automatically added on? How do you hold him to any specific numbers if he's working on cost-plus?
If he signs off on it and we've signed off on it, I mean, we've got pretty good at determining what things will cost. So if he's way off, he'll be like, hey, it doesn't look right. But if he signs off on it, he's held accountable to it. With that though, our general now, we're on such a good term with him that if he's going to go over, he can foresee it and underbid it. He'll bring it up to us and we're open to discussion about it. Say like, hey, why is it happening? Is it your fault? Is it our fault? They not clarify it.
Responsibility for his subcontractors and stuff.
Yep, for sure. And then we have a change order process too. So if it's something we've changed that's caused it to go over, his line item for electrical, then we'll sign off and be responsible for it. So.
What determines the quality of the material that you use?
For what trade?
Well, I mean, you had your light fixtures and
Okay.
things like that. What determines what quality? Because the price can go.
Basically,
Or
match
you just
model.
have a package and you just use the same one every time, or?
Yeah, so we put together that package based upon stuff we've done in the past that we've liked. We know it's a good quality product. We know it's affordable, and Matt's mom signed off on it. She kind of has the final say in our design when we put this package together. So,
Women have the final say,
yes.
if you're smart.
And this package I think here is kind of for the price range above 400. We were going to put together another packet for homes under 300, so you're not putting, $10 square foot tile in a shower where you really should only be putting $2 square foot tile. So this packet is kind of more specific for the homes we've been doing in the last year and a half. So.
Does the neighborhood determine?
Oh, absolutely, for sure. We wouldn't be putting, some of these light fixtures in a home out west, but we're putting them up in homes in the Columbus Code. We wouldn't spend $500 on a chandelier for a home, out on past Redwood Road or anything like that. So very specific.
Have you guys been able to come up with a cost per square foot factor figure? In a price, let's say for example, you're planning to put $600,000 range. Can you guys pretty much determine square foot house, 150 square foot? And that'll give you a rough idea of negotiating.
Yeah, for a rough number, we walk through and we have a repair estimate that we do a cost breakdown on every item that our general is actually going to bid upon. So that helps us narrow it down. But a good rule of thumb that I kind of go off is $40 to $45 a square foot upstairs. That gives an awesome master bathroom. You're redoing the whole kitchen and usually a hallway bathroom, and then the finishes to the quality we've been doing. And anywhere from $20 to $28 a square foot in the basement.
We're doing high.
That's high end. That's stuff.
You saw it from our design packet. It's a higher end stuff.
Yeah.
The lower end stuff's not always that, but.
Yeah, lower end is 15 to. Yep. That's fixtures and everything, which add up quickly. Appliances, all that stuff.
All right, I'm almost out of time. Do you guys want me to do one call real quick?
Yes, please.
Yeah, this will be a good one, I think. Very quiet.
Yeah.
Good luck.
Yeah, they're still working now. That's a good sign. Yeah, my name's Matt. I was just calling off the ad that you had on KSL for painting.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I just had a couple questions for you. I'm actually a remodeler in Salt Lake here, and we got a couple projects coming up, and we just lost our painter. So, just wondering if you had a minute to chat.
Absolutely. How big is the job?
We have a couple projects right now. The first one, though, that we have coming up is a 2,500 square foot home, and then the one after that is about 3,600 square feet.
Okay. And is it new construction?
One of them, it isn't. It's a remodel. We mostly just do remodels, but this one's they're both pretty in depth that we had to do quite a bit of work to them. One has all brand new sheetrock. The other one, we're just painting over the existing sheetrock.
Okay, so you're coming down. The first one needs to be sheetrock, you said?
Well, it doesn't need to be. It will be done pretty shortly here, but it's all brand new. Just brand new.
You guys will be maintaining and sanding and all that?
Yeah, it'll be prepped and ready. There'll be baseboards up. Pretty much we just need paint.
Okay. Are you going to supply the paint or you want me to buy it?
We'd like you to buy it if possible.
You want the, okay. Okay, I don't know the top quality paint, by the way.
What brand do you use?
I use Dale.
Okay.
I use Dale, which is a mediocre. It's a better line. I mean, it's a better paint. It's not the top of the line.
Yeah. We've used Qual before. Do you have accounts at different places, or do you just only stick to Bear?
No, we just pay cash. We pay cash and we put it on our account, credit card, you know.
Okay. So how long have you been doing this?
Yeah. Well, honestly, I've been doing this since 1988.
Okay, awesome.
1988. But do you want it sprayed or do you want it rolled?
We like it sprayed on the first house because it's all brand new. Really, we like to work with contractors that move quickly. We'd like to take a look at some of your work to make sure it's kind of good quality. I mean, if it looks good and you got speed, I'm not too picky about how you do it, but we do kind of have a standard of how we like it to look, that's for sure.
Sure. Okay, my partner is at the I'm going to have him call you, and then he'll get that set up with you, and if you want, you can come and take a look at it and give you a price.
Okay, perfect. Would it be possible that I talk to him? Do you guys have like any projects you're currently doing right now that I could at least come check out some of your work that you're doing, just to get an example of?
We have one that's going to come up in a couple of weeks in Redmond.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, we just like to make sure that see something you're actually working on, so we can see what it looks like.
Yeah, usually wait a couple of weeks. I don't know how long you want to wait before you want us to get started on that. But in a couple of weeks, we have a project that we're doing in Overton.
Yeah.
So also, if you want to wait until then to come and look at the work.
Yeah, we could probably have you get it out sooner, but we're a couple weeks out as well. We won't pick anyone until we actually see their work first. So.
Okay.
And,
once we get started, I can give you a call. I'll have to log my call, I'll give you a call. And then you can send one of your guys to go take a look at the work house done. We'll just go from there.
Yeah, I just have a couple more questions for you if you have a couple of seconds. Are you guys licensed and insured by chance, or and do permits and stuff? I mean, as a painter, you don't usually need to necessarily.
We are licensed and insured, yes.
Okay. And we do about 20 remodels. We do about 20 remodels every year. Do you guys have any problems with the size of projects you do? Like, is there anything too big or too small that you work on?
I don't. I can always have enough people to do the work.
Okay.
I can always have up to 16 people at a time to do the work for me. So that's not an issue.
And then how do you guys usually like to get paid? Do you guys require a certain amount down up front before work starts, or payment of the paint up front, or paid all the in? What do you guys do?
30%.
30? Okay, 30% down.
Yeah.
Okay.
30% down, and then when the job is done, to your satisfaction, you get a 70%.
Okay, and then about how long would a project like that first one that's like 2,700 square feet, it's going to be it's going to be two-tone paint. How long would that project typically take you?
How long will it take?
Yeah, like would that take you a week or 2 weeks? How long would it take?
I'd like to give myself 1 week.
Okay, awesome.
I cannot promise less than a week, but 1 week is, to me, is manageable.
Okay, and how many guys are you working with that are on your crew? And if we have like multiple projects going on, like we just want to know what kind of workload you could handle. If you
We can do up to 2 to 3 projects at a time.
Okay.
At one time, but not more.
Okay, perfect. All right, well, yeah, just this is my cell phone number, so just have your guy give me a call.
I have your number, and this is the number that you called me from?
Yeah, that's my cell phone.
213-7006?
What was that?
213-7006?
Yeah, that's it.
Okay, I'll have him give you a call.
Okay,
What is your
perfect.
name, sir?
Matt, M-A-T-T.
Matt?
Yeah, M-A-T-T, Matt.
Okay, all right, Matt.
All right, thank you.
I'll have him call you between now and tomorrow morning, okay?
Okay, awesome, thank you.
Okay, you're welcome, bye.
Alright, so that was pretty straightforward. I mean, one thing about that call, I would probably say, like he answered every question way too good. Not too good, but like everything was just like yes, yes, yes. Like it was almost too good to be true. So that would make me a little bit worried about him. Like everything that I put out there, he was just like agreeing with, and didn't necessarily come back with me and he didn't pre-qualify me at all. Like I like guys that actually like to ask questions about what we're doing, because that means they've been through the gauntlet before, they've run into problems, they know who they like to work with and who they don't like to work with. So you're not going to find a lot of guys like that, but when you do, that's a good sign that you have a guy that's a good guy to work with, because he knows who he wants to work with and not want to work with. So. Yeah. I mean, but if he's not busy or asking that question, like, what's your workload like? He says he has one coming up. But I made sure I didn't say, oh, okay, cool. I was like, well, we're not going to work with you until we actually see that. Because he kind of was pushing like, oh, do you want to wait that long? Like, yeah, that's kind of a red flag there too. Anyone else notice anything, or you notice anything you want to touch on?
I liked how he told you that Bear was the finest thing available.
Yeah, right.
Only the top of the line stuff.
I know, right? So, I mean, it's pretty simple. You don't need to go into too much length. Each contractor is a little bit different. That ended up being a painter. A handyman, I'd ask a couple different questions as well. But that guy, he seemed good enough that I'd have to come out and bid. But one note is that we usually, back when we used to do all the bidding, we would have like 2 to 3 guys show up at the same time. And we'd stack everybody back to back. But it was like 3 painters from 10 to 10:30, and then it'd be 3 drywall guys from 10:30 to 11, and just roll them through, because 1, that's your time that you're saving, and 2, that's creating competition with them, that they know that they need to be competitive to win your business. But I did little like subliminal things about telling them how many projects we do, what kind of quality that we expect, that kind of stuff, so that when he shows up to the project, he knows what he needs to expect from us, and that he could possibly win a big account if he does a good job and bids it right. So one thing I forgot is I usually say, like, in that sense as well, like, I would actually say that to him. I say, well, I want you to come out and bid this project. If you guys bid right and do a good job, we would be more than happy to give you our continued business. But just know we don't compete bids against each other. We take the first bids from everybody, and whoever has the best bid is who we take. That way, they don't give a high bid, and then they call you back 2 days later, hey, did I get the job? You're like, actually, no, we're still looking, or we're still trying to find somebody, you guys were a little high, and they go, well, what was your lowest bid? I don't really go that way, but you can't expect someone to be that way, but if you tell them that's what you want, then they'll come in low, and give you the best price to get your business. But like I said before, sometimes their prices will go up over time, so you're constantly keeping them honest, cultivating new people. We're out of time, so hopefully that was enjoyable to you guys. And we're going to go into our first sponsor of the night, which is, who do we got first? Cody? You ready, Cody?
Either one, you
let me know. Let's go with Cody, since he was kind of curtailed in on our press, so we'll let him just roll right in. Cody, like I said before, great guy, insures all of our properties, insanely cheap. I don't know how they really do it, but insures a lot of guys in the room that are regulars. So not like, I'm not promoting him because he's paid me, but I'm promoting him because he's good. That's why we like to have good sponsors here that people have used, people have trust in, and they do a good job. If they don't, then they don't stick around long. So. You've been coming here for a little while, right?
That's for the
yeah, thanks. Said a gift card. Alright, so we already gave a big round of applause, so go ahead for it, Cody.
Alright. So, today I'm going to talk a little bit different. Everyone has probably heard my pitch on the fix and flip versus the buy and hold. I've done that a few times here. So this time we're going to switch it up a little bit and talk about making sure you as an investor, so you can leave here tonight
hopefully learning something insurance-wise to make sure you left here, learn something about liability, make sure you're protected the right way with your investments. So first and foremost, you can see some of these pictures. One up above, it looks like they either had a sunk hole in there or there's someone getting ready to put a pool in. It's not really protected that right. And so that lady could possibly at nighttime not know where that caution tape is, fall in. Hopefully that's not the case. But if that were to happen on your property, would your current policy protect you on that? It will if it's written right. And I'll go over that. Second one is auto. So there's a lot of policies I see, and a lot of people love the rate. They'll love the, hey, I pay $30 a month, $50 a month. But are you getting what you want, or are you just looking for the rate? Again, when it comes to being an investor, I know multiple people in here have multiple rentals, have a lot of exposure, have a lot of income, have a lot of assets. Make sure you're covered with a proper amount of liability so that if you're in a wreck, they don't take all your rentals and everything else. We'll go over that in depth. So first and foremost on the home liability, on your primary home insurance, I would always make sure at minimum, I don't care if you have just a town home and you have no rentals and you really don't think your exposure's out there, I always recommend a minimum $300,000 in liability to protect you. What that's going to do, an example up there, is if someone were to trip and fall on your property and they want to sue you because they broke their hip, this personal liability is going to protect you up to $300,000 on that policy if you started with that. The minimum is $100,000, but I would suggest strongly, just because there are so many lawsuits we see nowadays, bump that up, and you're only talking $10, $15 over the whole entire year to triple your coverage.
How much more close would it be to the road thresholds?
It depends. A lot of companies in the personal lines for your own personal home, they won't go up to $1 million. There's some companies that will, majority cap at $500,000, and then from there you're going to go into what I'm going to get into is the umbrella. Auto liability. So you have your bodily injury, and these are the limits that you'll see typically. If you have 25-65, I would strongly recommend call your agent tomorrow and get that thing bumped up to a minimum of 5,100. What that's saying is, if you cause an accident and you injure someone in that other car, state minimum requires you to have at least 25-65, meaning they'll be covered in that car for $25,000 per person, up to $65,000 for the whole occurrence. I can tell you with medical bills nowadays, 25 grand isn't going to cut it. You'll see that cap quickly, and then if it's a $50,000 for one person's medical injuries, 25 is going to come from insurance, the other 25 is going to come out of your pocket or a lawsuit. So make sure you do at least 5,100. The good way to do it is look at what your personal worth is on how you have assets. Determine that from the first number. So if it's 50,000, if you think you're worth more than 50 grand, I would bump up to the 100,000, 300,000. If you have a net worth of 100,000, bump up to the 250, 500. You always want to stay a little bit ahead of that. And then the highest you can go, well, you can go up to $1 million on personal lines, but then you can go to combined single limits where it's 500,000. You don't have a cap per person or per occurrence. It just lumps sum into a 500,000 combined single limit. Property damages. This would include the car that you just wrecked, as well as if you're driving and you slide off the road and you go through a fence or into a house, you're going to be protected. And again, depending on what you want, you can do 50K, 100K, 250, 500. What I always do is match whatever the lower number limit is for bodily injury. So if it's 5,100, I do 50K for property damage. But I would always suggest that minimum, if it were me, I'd do 100,000, 300,000, and then 100,000 on property damage. Personal injury protection, PIP, they call it PIP, or no fault. This is guaranteed to you whether you're at fault or not. So if you cause an accident or you don't cause an accident, everyone that's injured in your car, the first 3,000 minimum, because that's what the state requires, the first 3,000 is going to come from this policy for each person injured in your car before it goes to their health insurance. You can bump it up to 5K, 10K. Remember, if you like road bikes and you like pedaling around, this auto policy will cover you on your road bike. So if you do like riding around on bikes, I would bump up to 10K. That way if you're knocked off by a car or someone texting, at least your first 10,000 will be hit from here before it goes to your major medical insurance. Does that make sense? Okay, personal injury, or I'm sorry, uninsured motorist and underinsured motorist. 50% of the people that are driving out there today are either not enough insurance, don't carry enough insurance, or don't have insurance at all. So this uninsured motorist and underinsured motorist is to protect you and the individuals in your vehicle. So again, if someone hits you that doesn't have insurance and not enough insurance, make sure your limits are to protect you. I would do again 100,000 and 300,000 minimum because medical bills are just so high now. And so 50% chance you get hit, you're going to be hit by someone that doesn't have insurance or not enough insurance. Did anyone hear the BYU student that was longboarding and got hit at the corner? Anyone recognize that story? Okay, we insure that lady. The guy that hit her, they didn't go to lawsuit or sue him or anything. He had 50,000, 100,000 limits. Her medical bills, she had a 1% chance of living. She's alive. Her medical bills are at 250,000 right now. So the first 50,000, because he was underinsured, he had insurance, but he was not enough insurance to cover that whole medical bill. Well, guess what? We just ate a $200,000 claim on that particular occurrence right there. So she's protected. All of her 250,000 medical bills were covered because she had higher limits. Parents had 250, 500 on their policy.
So in other words, she was about to ask a quit by somebody else because she had over insurance with her own policy. She was covered, so she would not have been bad then before the accident.
Correct. So he had 50,000. He says because of him not having enough insurance, she was protected by her own policy. Again, it's your kids, it's your wife, it's spouse, whatever, anyone in your car, protect them like you would. Some people I see them protecting others more than they protect themselves. I don't get that. I would protect the people in my car.
If that woman was underinsured, she didn't have your policy, the pretty court would go to court and get a judgment against this guy and hope it's correct, maybe she doesn't, she doesn't.
Yeah.
Typically have plays out, right?
Correct. And this guy would have no money. He would have bankrupted. And so it wouldn't have never been paid in this particular instance. So you're banking that that guy hopefully has money somewhere else. Umbrella insurance. So you can buy them in $1 million increments, $2 million increments, and they're just like that picture up above, the umbrella covering the home, covering the cars, covering your money, covering, I call it CYA, covering your assets. This one, you always want to make sure that, again, once your net worth is more than like 250K, or your exposure starts to get big, I would say once you own 3 rentals, I would start thinking about getting an umbrella to protect you. So you have to have a minimum standard when you get the umbrella insurance. So first and foremost, your auto insurance will have to be at minimum $250, $500 to even qualify for an umbrella quote. As well as your home insurance will have to have a minimum of $300K. Something that just happened last week, I had an investor call me up. He says, I have 5 rentals, all in a different LLC. That's very, very common. He has a home, a secondary home, he has 5 vehicles, and he says he has just 1 umbrella. The guy owns the LLCs, so quick question, is he covered, yes or no? Are those rentals covered under that 1 umbrella? No. Are you saying yes because he owns it? Okay, he's not covered. He has to have 6 umbrellas in this instance. So his agent said, no, you're fine. All you need is just 1 umbrella because you own the LLCs. It is no different than myself, Matt Atkinson, Josh Christensen, Randall Wall, Matt Sneed.
Those are your 3 favorite clients except for Matt Sneed?
Yes. Did I answer correctly?
Yes.
Okay. So on this scenario, he had 5 rentals, all in different LLCs. He needs to have 5 different umbrellas for each one of those homes. His personal umbrella will not cover that because it is in a different name. No, no. So it's a completely different person. It's as if it's another person. An entity is completely different from a personal asset.
Under the ownership of one LLC. If I understood you correctly,
Yeah, so if you had all 5 properties, if I understood right, in one LLC, you'd give one umbrella. Correct. For the LLC, and then you need still one for your personal lines, if that makes sense. Anyone have questions regarding that? Umbrella's been an interesting topic lately. A lot more investors are getting that, which is super smart when you have the exposure out there. But there's a lot of confusion on exactly what it is you need to insure.
You're saying that the umbrellas on the LLCs for liability related to these properties.
Correct. Anything that you're doing acting in the name of that LLC.
Is to avoid the exposure of putting those things at risk.
My
Or
bad.
something that maybe happened on your personal property,
Can I get that one?
right? Am I correct?
Say that again. Sorry, these guys are joking up here. One more time. Last question.
We're
gonna turn the lights on.
My question was that you're talking about an umbrella for liability to occur on those properties.
Or whenever you're acting in the name of that LLC.
Okay, all right.
So if you own a car in that name of the LLC, you'd be covered too as well. Last one.
It's not so much a question, but the purpose of it. Yes, the LLC protects us from losing it, that one, and we have this one in an LLC. But why lose the first one in the first place? That's why the insurance covers it. Is that what I'm following there?
Correct. So you always want to protect yourself unless you're willing to give it up. But again, even with the commercial liability, you have to have that general liability, a minimum liability standard underneath it. You can't just buy a commercial umbrella unless you have a commercial general liability policy in force, if that makes sense. No different than you have to have a home with liability, autos with liability before you get the umbrella over that as well. Anything else? All right, I'll turn it over.
Let's do the other sponsor.
They're trying to usher him off stage and then you're just slacking back there.
It's a joke, I'll time myself.
Thank you.
Okay, hi, my name is Matt Atkinson. Everyone stand up, please. Oh, good. Even you guys with hands. Leslie Fink, please stand up. The lady that bought the fourplexes in West Valley, I forgot your name, please stand up. I don't know the guy with your beard. Okay, so to get it a little exciting, because insurance is way boring. Ready? I'm alive, I'm awake. I'm alive. I feel great. I feel good, I feel fine. I feel this way all the time. Okay, thank you. Please sit down. So the reason why I shared that information, I was asking Josh Christensen, earlier, who's the best salesperson he knows in Utah, correct? I asked you that right when we walked in. And one thing that I've invested the most in for myself is sales coaching. How do you learn to communicate with other people, negotiate, say the right things, say things differently, when to ask to close, a small close, long close, short close, is going to help you make a lot more money. So the reason why I did that chant is one of my personal mentors, I've been to his house twice, I've paid to see his workshop 7 times, I'm going again in August. His name is Tom Hopkins. Has anyone heard of Tom Hopkins? Raise your hand. Awesome. He's still alive. He actually retired from his boot camps and just came back based on demand 2 years ago. So the reason why I'm sharing this with you guys is I hear you all the time calling me, asking for help, or beating down the price, or how to get this, or how to get that, and you're amateurs. Okay? Here's what's cool. When I go to Tom Hopkins, I feel like a huge amateur, because he is silky, silky smooth. Where's Justin Puchard? We went to Tom Hopkins 8 years ago, and he's like, that guy is smooth as silk. He delivers information so eloquently, you'll just buy anything. So the reason why I'm sharing this with you is I've invested the most in education with how to close mortgages. I'm a mortgage broker. I've closed 1,200 mortgages. I'm not here to talk about how to help you with a mortgage. I'm here to help you how to close more transactions as a real estate investor. So based on getting a lot of feedback, by raise of hands, who's at least attended one workshop that I've taught? Raise your hand. So those of you that are not looking, keep your hands up, please. Cool, a good amount. One thing that I've been asked to help is I'm going to teach a class on selling over the phone. Can I get a clicker so I can stay on time and get done quick? Cool. So I'm teaching a workshop in August. I moved it around for the bus tour to accommodate not being a conflict because I think they're both very good. And I'm talking how to close deals without meeting the seller. By raise of hands, who would like to close a deal without having to meet the seller face to face and do it over the phone? Raise your hand. Okay, awesome. Here's a house that I closed in Kearns. Never met the seller. If you are good enough, I'm not Randall Wall. I don't walk in and have this mature look just because he has more experience. Other people that are older, I'm calling you more mature. Other people who are older, if you're buying from a private seller, will feel more comfortable just dealing with someone who's over 40 years old versus someone like Matt Sneed most of the time, right?
Pretty good.
Matt Sneed is very good looking though. I actually thought of these before, so this is actually perfect. Matt Sneed's different, very sharp, very professional. If you guys see me, I go with flip-flops, have my toenails painted with US flags. It's awesome. Here's what's really good though. What I say over the phone, I can close anyone over the phone. I don't have to go to their house. So I bought this property with seller financing, never meeting the seller, and it's in Provo. It's on 529 East, 1250 South. This is another house that was brought to me in Kearns by a wholesaler. The wholesaler did an amazing job getting the data, but couldn't close the transaction. So after talking to the seller, he felt comfortable, never met the guy, he relocated to Alabama. We did seller financing with an all-inclusive deed of trust 2 years ago. This is a rental that we have in Kearns. If you feel like you'd like to get better at this, raise your hand. Okay, great. Here's another property I bought in Kearns. A wholesaler brought me the deal. I had to close it cash. The cash didn't work. I communicated with the seller over the phone. They allowed me to do seller financing with a deed of trust. They owned it free and clear. I provided them the financial information that they felt comfortable with, so I didn't have to come and drive to my office, shake their hand, see what you're looking for, because I helped them feel comfortable with what they wanted or what their concern was. This is also in Kearns. This other property, I teach little boot camps on how to turn landlords into sellers. There's 3 types of landlords. There's accidental landlords. Those are people that don't want to be a landlord, that they had to rent out the property because they couldn't sell. Number 2, you have burnout landlords. Burnout landlords just got into it. They bought too many properties. They over-leveraged themselves. Number 3, you have professional landlords. Professional landlords are most of us that are here. We work to improve ourselves to get better at negotiating. This gentleman was a professional landlord that he was done being a landlord. He relocated to South Carolina 17 years ago. This was his old ward. So he got really, really lucky renting it to 3 different families in his ward. Some person in a class that I taught sent out a postcard. The guy called him, was scared with what to say, couldn't close him. He said, could you call him? I called him, I negotiated it with him, never met him, lived in South Carolina, bought it with seller financing. Paid the guy $500 in a fee. All of these were brought to me. I didn't go looking for properties. I don't go and market because opportunity costs, I focus on mortgages for my clients. The reason why I'm sharing this with you is my friend Justin says, you can't teach you how to be Matt Atkinson. But you want to surround yourselves with people who are more successful than you. Is that fair? So I'm going to Tom Hopkins, Randall Wall needs to go, Matt Sneed went 2 years ago, Josh Christensen needs to go. Just because you polish your words with how to get more stuff. Everyone needs to learn how to be, he's a wordsmith. Say that again?
Been there, he's good.
He's amazing. I go every year to retool. So why I'm bringing this up is I'm teaching a workshop that's purely on how to close over the phone. It's going to be for seller financing and for cash, or for wholesaling deals. The whole purpose is I want to convey to you what to say. Realtors are horrible over the phone. I deal with them all the time. I do not apologize. The ones that are good make hundreds of thousands of dollars a year. But a lot of realtors, they get their license, they just don't know how to communicate. They send an email where you gotta have a 3-minute conversation. And you guys, as investors, do the same thing. You gotta pick up the phone and close the person. So, I'm not the smartest guy. Actually, I'm not that smart. I'm a normal person. God gave me a talent to talk to people. I've had to learn how to listen a lot better. I'm a big extrovert. I've had to learn how to tone it down. Does that make sense? Because everyone's personality is different. David Sterling's laughing because he's a CPA. So the reason why I'm sharing this with you, tonight I changed the venue to a larger place. If you'd like to attend this workshop, you'll earn 10 times your investment if you apply what you do, what you learn. So my staff, raise my hand, Lonnie and Trevor and Kaden, my intern. If you'd like to register for today only, they pass you a flyer. It's $125 for a 3.5-hour workshop. I'm going to do role playing in front of people. I'm going to make calls, literally like what Matt's doing is awesome. You guys are going to learn how to talk to people better so you can close more transactions. I don't have time to drive around the whole valley to do deals. I close them at my office because it's better opportunity cost. If you feel that's a skill you would like to get better at, you can fill out your information, we'll process your credit card. You can only do it tonight for $125. It's not tomorrow, it's not I have to think about it. I knew that there would be about 100 people here at Slreia, and if half of you guys decide to make that investment and get better, it will help you learn how to close more deals so you can flip properties like on a bus tour, because if you have no deals in front of you, it doesn't matter. You guys agree with that? The nice thing is you can learn how to close more transactions. So I appreciate this is an opportunity for MJRE. If you're interested, raise your hand. Good. Fill out your information. Please pass it to the right. We're just going to pass them down. If you're interested, fill out during the presentation, and thank you for your time.
Raise them again, raise them again.
Just pass them down.
Hold it, yeah, just pass them. Alright, next up we got Randall. So he is the president of the club. For those of you that are new, and for those of you that have been here before, you're familiar with him. It's going to be a great presentation, it always is, so pay attention and take it away, Randall.
Okay, just having a good time tonight. Well, we learned some good things. Yeah, those are important things. I learn something every time I come out. Let me tell you why the Investor Association is so important. It is because this is a chance to get a huge amount of knowledge fast, and we're all investors, so what do we like to buy things at? Discount. Discount. We get it at discount. So last year I was contacted by one of T. Harv Ecker's guys to see if I wanted to do the real estate, be their real estate guy. When I coached six, and I coached six of, I don't know if you're familiar with Rich Dad or Prosper. I coached six of their coaches in the last 2 years. I charged $10,000 for 16 hours, which really isn't worth my time, but it's expensive. So if you want to get going, you want to make a bunch of money, and you want to make sure that you make that money in 4 months, you start making income, usually $10,000. I hook you up with my team. I mentor you, and we move on. I don't really like doing a lot of teaching, to be honest. I like teaching groups, it's a lot better. I like helping people out, I like helping Maria. So you get some people that are doing really good things. Matt Atkinson's doing a lot of business. Matt Snake's doing a lot of business. We average at a minimum, this is my minimum, is 10 deals a month. I put 10 under contract a month. My minimum value for those 10 per month, net value is $100,000. Typically, I'm looking at $150,000 to $200,000 per month net value. That's what I look at every month. This real estate is a business that for me is a cash machine. Okay, I decide how much I want to make and what I want to do. It's not a question of can I find all the deals, can I get enough, can I make it happen. It's a question of what do I want to see happen. How much money do I want to take out? Where do we want to buy? Where do we want to go with this? 10 deals a month is easy. 20 deals a month is pushing a little bit. This market, for me, my market caps out at 30 transactions a month. Running at the same numbers, the overhead will go up a little bit, so probably looking at, I don't know, maybe 400,000 a month for all of that. So the reason I tell you that is this is a great time to make money and to learn things, because I'll teach you everything here that I've taught and I get paid for when they fly me to Seattle or somewhere else to speak. And you can learn it all here right now doing this. As an investor, Matt Snag, how much do you make an hour as an investor?
I calculated roughly at like 200. And even so, when now I'm getting a lot of people that want me to come out and do walkthroughs or give them advice or design their property and that kind of stuff. So I'll charge that, and people pay it. So I mean, I guess that's what people are willing to pay is also what I'm worth. So
you make a ton. You should know what you're worth per hour.
His modeling, he makes $500 for 30 minutes.
Which is awesome.
Man, he should just stick with modeling.
I do it per picture.
So what this is, when I tell you about this, let me get a clicker. So when I tell you this is a business that anybody can do. You don't have to be smart. If you're smart, it's a problem. Because when you look at real estate investing, the average person is going to find 5 problems, okay? 5 challenges. The smart person is going to come up with 10, and the genius is going to come up with 25. And that's why I always say I have the hardest time with, I don't want to pick on engineers because you're freaking awesome and you're here. But I don't think I've ever seen a successful genius. Maybe you're not a genius, that's probably a good thing. So, I've never had a successful genius in this business. But you can do what I do, you do what Matt does, you do whatever you want. You're in control. And you're the blame, and you're the one that's at the top of the game here. So let's talk a little bit about, let's see, go ahead and click rehab. Let's do the rehab, this one here. So we're going to talk a little bit about remodeling houses and rehab. We've got a bus seminar that is coming up next month. We do that to help you see how we do things. Also, it helps fund REIA, our investor association. And it's kind of fun. I like doing it in a group because I'm still active in the business. And I've gone with, I've gone to Tom Hopkins. I've gone to 100 different guys. And they're all great. But I kind of like what Dan Merrill said to Matt the most. He said, go learn from somebody that's really good at whatever it is you want to do, and then innovate and put your own spin on it. And so we all have a different spin. So let's talk about this. We fix houses, we remodel houses. That is the biggest payout per single deal. Now, yes, I have wholesale properties for $100,000 or more. Okay. That is not common. I typically will wholesale something, which means that for those of you that are new, that I buy it at $100,000 and I wholesale it for $170,000. I'll make between $50,000 and $80,000 on 1 to 2 transactions per year. Okay, so I guess it's enough for some people to live on, but I'll do that once or twice a year, and usually just because it's part of the whole process. So I have my 10 deals. My 10 deals will break down like this one. I'm going to do 10. I'm going to do 2 holds. Okay. I'm going to do 5 wholesales, and I'm going to do, the rest is going to be in the other 3 is going to be in remodels. So my holds, that's just for monthly cash flow. See, I just bought one yesterday, $175,000 seller financing. It'll cash flow $200 a month and give me $6,000 in your tax benefits. So nothing really stellar, not a really stellar deal, but it adds up. And it's only, I think it owes, it's probably worth 175, 180, it owes 162, just barely on it. So a little bit of equity, but nothing really special. It's a really good condition. It's nothing, that's why I took it. And so the other 3 are the remodels. They have 10 going currently right now.
So what would you do that as a department benefit, just tax depreciation?
Yeah, and it's going to go up, and and everything goes up. Everything in real estate goes up. I'm taking the depreciation off it. It's going to make me $100 or $200 a month, which fits into my long-term goal. I can't take very many of those. I can only handle a few of those. Yeah, that's it. I did nothing to make his payment. That's it. I just stepped in and made his payment. So they have hardly any closing, anything else that made sense. So this one here's the wholesales are between 10 and 20,000 each. And the remodels, most of the ones I'm doing are probably 50 to 100,000.
These are market spread?
Yes. Okay. So that's kind of how that shakes out. The high dollar stuff is in doing the remodel. It's also the highest stress. It's the highest risk. And it takes the biggest capital investment and the most knowledge. But it's something that anybody can do. There's just some steps that you have to follow. You have to systemize it. Just like Matt Snade is up there. He has systemized everything. You know, he does a really good job. I am not a systems guy. Josh is really good at systemization. I will create programs and Josh implements them and betters them and make sure that they go check by check and dot by dot. So let's talk about this a little bit. So why real estate? Basically, we have the opportunity to help a lot of people, sellers, buyers, banks, workers, neighbors, and last of all, ourselves. And it makes you happy. Now, for a long time, I wasn't all that happy. And so I turned my cash machine down. I lived on $10,000 or $15,000 a month. Put the rest of it in business, helped my guys out, didn't care about anything. But after you get remarried, I'm really happy again. So we've turned the dial up again, and we've got exciting things. So whatever it is in your life, you don't want to make chump change, okay? You want to make big money, and you can do it. Piles of money is always good. Room full of money is better, but piles and piles of cash, and this is something that anybody can do. And, and it's not enough by itself to me, the money. I've never been about the money for me. I'm not wired that way. I don't care. We took our test last month. I was a yellow. I was like a 60 on the yellow scale, and my next highest was a 30 on the red, and then I was even, 26 and 27 on the blue and the green. I care more about people than anything else, and I like people that care about people. Like people that are focused on money annoy me. So I want to help you. Let's focus on something that's going to make your life better. So you want to begin with the end in mind. Everybody's got a plan. It might be a 1-week plan, a month plan, 6 months, 1 year, 3 year, 5 year. I look at this and see how this fits into my plan. Remodels are fitting into my 6-month plan. Okay, I'm going to fix them up. I'm going to put them on the market. I'm going to sell them. Wholesales are in my 1 week to 1 month plan, and the holds are probably in my 3 to 5 years, to a 10-year plan. Okay. So the important thing is that you have to tailor your rehabs to fit an exit strategy. I made a huge mistake and lost $50,000 on my first rehab. I was a UPS driver. I hauled sheetrock in the back of my truck. I found a house. I'm from Oregon. I moved here. Found a house on the river in Glendale, and I thought, well, crap, houses on the river are pretty awesome. My parents' house is on a lake, and they're surrounded by $10 million houses. Waterfront property is always worth more, right? Well, it didn't work that way. So I didn't have a strategy. It was the first one I ever did. I taught myself, I bootstrapped. There was nobody that was helping me do this or get into this. I just figured it out along the way. And it's kind of what you have to do in this market, is learn, and then there's going to be, whatever we teach you, Matt teaches you, I teach you, anybody teaches you, you're going to have to start connecting the dots and crossing the T's, because no one's going to do it all. But you need to have a really good exit strategy that's going to fit where you want to end up at. And that's where you want to end up at, is on the cross, which is right over those piles and piles of money. So rentals are a whole different game. All right. Do you remodel a rental the same way that you remodel a flip? No. What do you need to do, right? Yeah, clean it up. Just make it look clean, make it be safe, right? So that's a big thing. So very different. Those should conform to your 3 to 5 year plan. This house here, I think I might put $500 into it, and it's rent ready. Okay. So I'm not going to do much with it. Okay. So you look at these two houses, and which one of those houses lost $50,000? They look about the same, don't they? And which one made $100,000? Any guess? One had a effective plan and the other one didn't. This one over here, I meandered around and did everything from the sewer to the roof, moved rooms, did all kinds of stuff. That was over in Glendale. Lost 50,000. This one actually made 138,000 on, but I figured just leave it at 100 grand. Because I had an effective plan, I knew what my exit strategy was and where I was going with it. I learned more from that $50,000 mistake than I did from Tom Hopkins and Robin Thompson and everybody else. But and I've done hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of transactions.
How did you squeeze the $100,000 on the left?
On the left?
It wasn't Beverly Hills, I said.
No, it wasn't. It was actually in Liberty Park.
It's here in Salt Lake.
Yeah, it's here in Salt Lake, 13 South. $138,000, that was awesome. So the effectiveness of your plan is worth big bucks. Flip this house is bullshit, okay? Anybody seen Flip Men? Yeah. All right, also bullshit. I've been paid by several of these shows that are on TV and I've got the copies of the checks somewhere in my files to show them how to make money. Okay, because they don't make money. They don't make consistent money. Great entertainment, flip that house, great entertainment. You know, I went through and tracked about 10 transactions that they had done, and I think there was one that broke even that lost money on the other 9. But really good entertainment. That's what it is. So you got to figure out what your business is. Guys that are doing education are mostly not doing the business. They did the business, they were good at it, they moved over to the education side, which is awesome. You know, I did a short sale on one of Robert Allen's employees' houses, and you know, they did great things in the day, but now they focus on education. I don't know. I like this guy here. Tan Merrill is kind of interesting, but basically he says that down here on number 3, failure is the first step towards real estate success. 2, don't let fear stop you from living up to your true potential. And number 1, real estate investing is a business and should be treated as such. I like that. And then number 4 is fun for me, just for a personal curiosity thing. So if you've ever gone to A Familiar Mind, if you've gone to Tom Hopkins, if you've gone to anybody else, find somebody who's successful in whatever they do, model what they do, imitate, and then innovate. Unfortunately, a lot of people never get past imitating to innovating. You know, they talk the same, they do the same things that these guys do. Everybody can be an innovator. Look at how I do something and figure out how you can do it better. Matt Snade does things better than I do in some areas, so does Matt Atkinson, so does Gabe Attia.
What's up, Gabe Attia?
You can innovate and do better than I can in probably just about anything. It's important to do that. Treat it like a business. So things to plan for. Let's talk about this. Holding costs. Okay? When a realtor says, I've got a house for $200,000, everything else is selling on the street for $220, it's a deal. I know it's great for investors. You should buy it. What do I tell them? You got to do a little better than that. Work backwards, because you're going to hold. Anybody have their own money? You know, if you take down a $200,000 deal and put your own money, you don't have to worry about holding costs. Where is my favorite Source One guy? Where's Paul?
He's here.
He left. Oh, okay, he left. All right.
Can I make a comment with that? It's lost opportunity cost if you have that much exposure of your own cash. Because you, for 200 grand, you do one deal, which I only learned 3 years ago, where you are smarter and taught me this. You could do 8 deals and have more leverage and more profit.
No, that's entirely true, 100% correct, but not applicable to what we're talking about here. So if I've got a $200,000 house and I'm using hard money, I'm probably paying $2,000 a month. If it's a short-term 90-day hold, you know, $1,500 a month. That's hard money. That's lights, taxes, insurance, etc. So if I've got an agent saying it's worth $220, you can buy it at $200,000. I'm already going down. Okay. Selling costs. So let's say if you're not an agent, it's gonna cost you 6%, if you are, it's gonna cost you 3. 6% of $200,000 is 12,000 bucks. Now, I'm gonna have to hold that for, I don't know, what's the average hold time on that? Like 60 days? Something like that, it's probably about 60 days. So we're starting to go down, and all of a sudden, it looks like I'd be lucky to break out of there with my eye teeth, not having to do anything to the property. We'd be out there with, nothing. Okay, so we got costs, contingency costs, costs of time. I'm going to move through this really quick. Contingency cost is really important. I don't know anybody in Salt Lake that has done more remodels than I have. In fact, I don't know anybody that's done half as many. There's probably somebody that I don't know. The fact is that rarely do they come in on budget. Okay? I just did one that we budgeted, I thought it was going to take $230,000, so I budgeted $250,000, and it ended up being $320,000 for the remodel. That's on a higher end property. But the little ones, if you're doing you think it's going to be a $30,000 remodel, there's a good chance that it might be on the high end, could be $50,000 if you run into something really ugly. But 35 to 40, so if you plan on 30, you better figure an extra 10 in there, just in case. Between 10 and 30%, depending on your experience and the number of remodels that you've done. That's something that is always really important.
So does that quote over on a higher threshold so you can actually do that again?
Possibly, but I look on a per deal. Yeah, I look at each deal on a per deal basis, and I don't worry about capital gains. That's a whole other topic.
So I have because a lot of times we do end up getting space and that probably adding that square foot, you end up with a more expensive home.
Yeah.
In that case, did that end up to be profit?
Yeah, sure, absolutely. I mean, we're talking about adding square footage. Yeah, no, absolutely. I do that all the time. Okay, so let's go through here. If you do it the wrong way, if you fail to plan and you don't know what you're doing, you need to partner with somebody else. Okay, partner with somebody who's done it. Partner with Matt Atkinson, Matt Snee, somebody who is skilled and knows how to do what you want to do. Do the first one with them, do the second one with somebody else, and then by the time you're at 2 or 3, do it on your own. Really important to plan. Have worksheets. This is stuff I started using in the beginning. What are the down payments, the closing costs, the commission, appraisal fees, inspections, miscellaneous, total expenses to buy, etc. This was very basic. This is actually about 30 years old for me. But make a list so that you don't miss things. A list will bring order out of chaos faster, quicker, and better than anything else. Okay? Really important. One of the things that you want to do too is, step 2 is figure out what's a good deal. We talk about this a lot. I mean, there's wholesalers out there, and they're going to wholesale to you, to me, to 10 other people. And typically, the wholesaler is going to sell the property to the guy that's going to pay the most. Right? That's important. That's why you need to figure out what a good deal is for you. If you don't have holding costs and it's your money, then you can do something different. Like Matt talked about holding costs of leverage, absolutely. It's better to do 10 projects rather than 1. Let's say you're a school teacher. You really want a deal. You don't need to make a lot. You need to make $15,000. You've got the cash to put down. You're planning on doing the work yourself because you want to teach yourself the business. Maybe it's better to buy it at a little higher price than somebody else who does it. I've never lost money using this formula. I don't use this anymore. Right off the bat, it's 80% of the after repair value minus repair costs. It's the beginning of a good deal. And you can see here, these are just some I pulled off an old slide that I had. I bought the one in West Valley. Purchase price was $182,000, $36,000 repairs, $4,500 other costs. That was closing, taxes, etc. And the sales price was $262,000. Net profit was $39,500. So this is one here. This one was really funny. So Dustin Christensen, I don't think he's here tonight, but him and I went to meet meet at this property with these people. We did this one together. And there's a whole bunch of people, it's an estate sale, and they said, our agent says that we can get, $138,000 if we clean the house up and do a little work on it. And I said, absolutely, yes you can, you'll get more money using an agent and putting it on the market. You will. I have not bought a house in the last 10 years or gone to an appointment in the last 10 years where I do not tell people right up front. If you want the maximum value, get an agent, put it on the market, you'll get the most money sometime in the future, 2 months to 4 months down the line. They didn't care. I said I'd take it as is, it was Wednesday, closed Friday, leave all the crap there, and there was like, 7 to 9 dumpsters full of crap in that house. And so they said, let us talk about it. I could hear them, they were like over that door, they're all whispering, and one is like, well, we can make a couple thousand extra, and the other 4 were like, shut up, you've got to just do it. So when we backed out, they followed us out, and we took the house as is, old cars in the yard, everything. So that's how that would work.
At the end of the day, doesn't it have to motivate itself to
Yeah, motivated seller, absolutely. But you don't always really know on the phone, which is really good. You can do some really great things on the phone. I love working the phone. We have our lead sources. I have our lead sources. The calls that come to me, I have got an appointment with every single one that I take. If they go to our gal that we have that takes calls, she's probably getting an appointment out of, what did you say, Josh, 70%?
Yeah.
70%. In the last 4 months, I have closed every single appointment but 2. And it's just, you're going to close 90%. And if they're motivated, they have to be, you got to find their touch point for motivation. And motivation is a lot of different things. Let me finish this precept here. So ARV is 225, 80% of that's 180, minus 40,000 in repairs. It's $140,000. That was the price that the most that I should have bought that property for using that. I have never lost money using 80% of the after repair value minus repair costs on any deal ever. So we bought it for $101,000. It was a good deal, and I think we made $60,000 on it. It was. We make that one. Wait, it's like 68. So not a bad deal for something you buy for $100,000 and 40,000 into. There's a lot of deals out there like that. It's not uncommon. Most of your remodels, you're probably making from $30,000 to $60,000.
I have a question about a purchase like that. Or somebody got a low price on it.
Yeah.
How do you get someone to be willing to sell it for that low? Isn't that they always, individual more their goal is to get as much money as they can.
What was the
Out of their goal is to make
You bet. So basically, how do I get somebody to sell it that low? There's a few things that'll go on. So basically, I'm going to say, all right, your house is worth $140,000 if you clean it out, like that one there. It's worth $140,000. I need a calculator. Who's got a calculator like that? I got you. Yeah, okay. So take $140,000 in that price range. Those are FHA buyers, and you're going to pay concessions. So take 6% for agent fees, because they're not realtors, 3% for closing costs. So 140 times 0.91.
127,400.
Okay, 127,400. Closing costs on that would be, I don't know, let's call it, let's say $1,000. So about 126. Okay. Now, if there was repairs on that, there actually was some repairs that were needed, like the cabinets were broken up. There was the carpets had dog poop on them. The guy had lived in there for 40 years and saved everything. So it probably needed new carpet. It needed new cabinets because I don't think they were repairable. So it needed about $8,000. It wasn't a very big house, but $8,000 at a minimum just to put some carpet down, to handle the kitchen, and probably needed $3,000 in paint because it was pretty grimy. So where am I at?
What is the
That's a 1,000.
Oh, sorry. what, we went down to 1,000.
Closing costs.
Yeah.
115
So 115, okay? So basically, to get there, what would they have to do? They would have to clean, paint, repair, and it wasn't gonna, I'm talking like bare minimum, like rental grade crap. That's what they would have done on that property. To make, how much did we say?
115.4.
115.4, okay? 400. All right. So my take was, I would give you $101,000. It sounds like a huge difference between 140 and 101, doesn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, it's big. You know, when you're talking about doing that, it's a big difference. So instead, you show them what you're looking at. You say, look, you're going to make about 15 grand if nothing goes wrong, and if the buyers don't, you know, come up with a home inspection that needs electrical or something else. And I tell them that. You will make more listing it, etc. This is, you know, I do this with just about everybody. And you're going to make 15 grand sometime in the next, you know, it's going to take you another month to clean it out and get it painted, probably a month or two. You know, there's 5 people who've inherited property. Estate sales are always really good. This works, I mean, Josh and I bought 2 in Sandy using the same technique right here.
And then they have to put the money into it first.
Right.
They have to have the cash.
And they have to have the cash to put, you know, the 8 grand and the 3 and, you know, whatever else into
They
it.
have to get along while they do it.
Yeah, they get along, and it was stinky. The house was stinky because it was like July. A dog poop in July is not a sweet smell. It's a smell for an investor, but it's not a sweet smell. So that's how I got them there. You know, I said, look, you make 15 grand more if you put 15 or 20,000 into it, you do the work, and sometime 4 or 5 months from now, you're going to get this money, or in 3 days from now, I'll pay you $101,000. That's just one way. There's a lot of ways. There's a million techniques. There's nobody, I don't have the techniques, Matt doesn't have them, you know, Josh, Roger, whatever. Everybody's got their own techniques. You have your own, you've got your own closing thing, whatever works for you. But you can take that and start working the numbers backwards. This is what it's worth cleaned up. This is what it's going to take to get to that part right there. And this is how much more you'll make doing it that way sometime in the future. This is what I can give you today. It's funny because nobody ever says, I think we'll put it on the market. And a lot of times I'll tell them, if you want to list it on the market, I'll even list it, I can give you a discount. It doesn't even bother me anymore because, you know, when I started out investing, everybody's like, oh yeah, you don't want to talk to them about listing it to get more money. Forget that. It's like when you spill soup on your shirt right before you stand up in front of 3,000 people. Ask me how I know this. Basically, you know, if you try to ignore it, you know, and kind of tuck it around under your shoulder, you know, your arm or something, what's everybody doing? Well, look at that big spot, right? You look at that soup stain you're trying to hide. But if you walk out and say, I had a really good lunch, too bad I didn't eat much of it. You know? Got soup on my shirt, then it's done, it's out of the way, it's gone, it's not a problem. That's what I do with the whole agent thing. And most of us investors sell using agents. We list it and sell it on the market, don't we, Matt? Because we get more money. But I have not had, I've had maybe one guy in 10 years that took me up on that. They all want their money now. So, all right. So this is what I look at. If somebody brings me properties, so agents, the biggest problem with the 80% of the ARV minus repair costs is that nobody knows how to calculate repair costs. 10,000 repair just doesn't happen in my world. There's probably some people's world that that's okay, you can get away with 10 grand in repairs. How many do you think we've done in 10 years that's been 10,000 repairs, Josh?
I don't know if we've done any.
That's my point exactly. Okay.
I did one.
No.
I did 11,000 in 11 days.
11,000 in 11 days, okay. So what I started doing, I said, all right, I need a $40 spread is where it starts looking good to me. That's not where it's perfect, that's where it starts looking good. Between the price per square foot, or the after repaired value, or the remodeled value, and the current purchase price. And so I have agents that'll feed me, they'll look for properties and say, all right, they're going for 160 remodel, think this one looks like it'd be good at, 110. Now, for $40 a foot, it can't need a whole lot. It's a pretty light remodel. But I'm interested. I mean, if I call Matt and say, I've got one, $40 spread, it's a light remodel, you want to look at it, what are you going to tell me?
Yeah. It's quick,
It's
easy.
worth looking at. It's quick, easy, you're going to go look at it. Here's a few examples. So this one here, we closed on, I don't know, it's real close, the 28th, I guess, of May. And I just popped it up. So we sold it at $141 a foot. That was $135, wasn't it, Josh?
Yeah.
Off the memory. Yeah. So 1,788 feet. So we bought it at $76 a foot. I don't know how much that is, but that's $67 a foot spread, isn't it? Now, pretty easy to figure out. The guy that brought it to us, the guy that wholesaled it to us, I think he wholesaled us that one, and then we wholesaled him one or two, didn't we? So it's kind of, we all work together, stuff goes back and forth. But he knew that would work for us based on what we were looking for. And the interesting thing about that one is we sold it for $249.9, or sorry, $258. We listed it at $249, sold it at $258 with 5,000 concessions because we liked the girl and didn't think that the appraisal would come in higher. We had to offer, it was at what, 271? 271, which the appraiser told me would not have been a problem. So we left a little on the table, but it was still a good deal. What do we make on that one, Josh?
About 60,000.
Okay.
3 days on market.
Yeah, pretty quick deal. Most of, and see, that's my personal philosophy is make the nicest product in its category and sell it quick. It's not everybody's. It's not the only way to do it. That's how I do it.
And you close in less than one.
Yeah, absolutely. So this one here is the big one. Actually, Matt Snade sold us this one.
Yep.
He also sold this one to us. And what did we pay for that one?
$371.
$371 plus.
But I was the agent on that one.
Okay. All right. Yeah. So $94 a foot is what we bought it for, which is pretty good. It was totally gutted and really bad inside, but I really liked it because we sold it for $234 a foot. This is a higher end, so I showed you both. On the, you're looking at.
You guys serious? That's freaking amazing.
So, doesn't matter where scale of the market you're in. I started looking at 40. If it was a new house, I might look at 30, 35, but 40 is of interest to me on it. Yes.
Do you differentiate on square feet between basement?
No. We had an appraiser that worked in our office, gross living area, gross living space. You got to do stuff you have to take the value of the basement, separate from the value of the main floor, everything above grade. Yeah, bull crap. It's we went and tracked like 5 years worth of transactions, and
The exception is if you have a house on one level and the other house is a basement, and the same square footage, don't be going off price per foot. That's the exception.
yeah.
And the reason for that is because Utah considers basements living square, it's the only state in the nation that considers basements living square
She
footage.
says the only state that considers the basement a living space, but basically what I did is I said, Josh, let's look at this. We tracked years back. I said, Matt, look at this. He tracked years back. I just figured there's an easier way, because it is hard to find somebody to give you a property at 80% ERV minus repair costs, because nobody can ever pay the repair costs. This was a lot easier. So that's what we did. So for 90%, 95% of what we have, that works. So, and it's true. If it's a Rambler and it's all in 1 foot, you're not, unless you have comps that you're going to compare it to your comps. Price per square foot of like to like.
Hey, Rand, could you just spend a minute talking about this, because this is really interesting. I guess we've left like 300,000 solar for millions, right? Because it's about 300,000 first price.
71. Hey, did we pay like, wasn't there a fee on top of that?
Yeah, on the back thing, if you made your numbers.
So what was that neighborhood like?
Harbor Yell.
It's one of the best neighborhoods
Hard
in
to
the valley.
That is the highest value house that's sold in that area, and we sold it for more than the appraisal.
And we spent $330,000 on it.
Yeah.
But I mean, my question is, I guess, so that we're going to support values, I mean, you still, I mean.
Yeah, but they still push the market because it appraised lower. But it was, the value was there because the buyers still came up with the cash.
That was a $210,000 profit after $320,000 cost. So I mean, that's what it was. But that, like I said, we all have different ways. Matt, does things a certain way. Actually, we do things pretty much very similar.
Yeah, but the interesting thing is, it's still design and rough, because I mean, you guys saw the value, that's the corner front.
Yeah.
So hard diamonds is rough.
Oh, in any neighborhood. And this is one where this is already 4,100 feet. We're maybe going to put an addition on it. That kind of price.
Okay, question right there. Is this not in a historic district?
No.
Okay, so if it were,
I wouldn't want to do it. Or
and you wouldn't be able to add the square footage, right? Because this was built in 1912.
Yeah, you can do it. You can still do it, but it's a long process. We had somebody that had a house on P Street, on the corner of P Street, and I don't remember what, but like 6 months they couldn't get permission to put a garage up, and so it was one of our investors that funds us, so we sent our guys over to put a garage up in 2 days. After 6 months, they couldn't get through planning, the zoning, the historical, whatever crap, and so we just said, let's try it. So we had everything done, poured it, slapped it up. It was done. That was like 7 years ago. We've never heard anything since. That's good. The house is really crappy. We just did one in Tooele, that one on 301 North. It is a crap hole. It's kind of like this one on a nice lot. So we're going to wholesale it and make $7,000, $7,000. Pick your battles. Don't say I need a deal so bad that you're going to pick one that's underwater. I don't know. I mean, you just want to pick something you can handle. And you want to pick something you can win at, because most people, for Josh and I to get to our level, or 10 deals a month, or 20, or whatever it is, I don't even think about it anymore, because it's just, you've had such a long run of successful things happen in the past that you know that can happen. It's your first rehab. That one that I showed you where I lost 50 grand, the only thing that saved me was I was greedy and did 2 at the same time. Because my wife would have never let me do another one. Which wouldn't have happened. And it would have been, it just, I just had it. I learned a lot from the first one. I did the second one and figured, all right, I'm going to make this one work. I took what I learned from my last one, made it up, and then some on the second one. So it's important. There's a lot of books out there, but you'll find, so this was my favorite book. There's a lot of new ones out there. I've always really liked this one just because the principles are real simple and clean. You can find it on Amazon. When it comes to remodel, buy it, fix it, sell it, profit. What time is it? Okay. I'm going to take a second. So some of the things you want to look at when you're looking at a house, foundation cracks. If you stick a finger or your hand into it, it's big, something you can worry about. If it's a little one like that one, not so much. That's the before, this is the after picture. Mold, another issue. If it's got a little bit, no big deal. If the whole house is covered like this one, that's actually, I think that was Chadwick, wasn't it? Isn't that a roll pay? That's what we did. You got to start worrying a little bit more. You have to remediate it. Shingles, those are big things. So when we look at a house, we're looking at, does it have grounded electrical? Does the roof need doing? Are the windows newer? What else? HVAC, is the HVAC good? If those are good, then everything else is easily pegged and it kind of falls into line. And you can do it quick. Fuses instead of breakers, you gotta be careful sometimes. I did buy a house because I didn't use my list and didn't look at the meter where it said 120 volt only. Ended up redoing a house, but it was good. Tube wiring. Those are some things that might cost you some money. Combat pollution, we're down to 3,000 to 5,000 now, but it's important to take a good slow walkthrough, write everything down, take pictures. If if you don't know what you're looking at, get somebody else in the boat. I'm a busy guy. Most guys that are doing anything are. But if you'll text me and say, I've got some pictures of this house I looked at, will you look at it? Absolutely. You know, and they'll usually email me pictures over. Or a lot of times I'll just go over on my way home, or if I'm close by. I've done, Matt and Yoshi had an ugly house that was probably the worst house I've seen in Utah, ever. But, you know, Yoshi said, hey, what do we do with this? And showed me some pictures, and I was like, I gotta go see this one. And I think the guy used to work for the railroad, because all the walls in the back of the house were built on a railroad-sized stack. No foundation. Pretty fun. So, if you rush, you're going to miss a lot. You know, you're always going to miss something, but if you rush, you're going to miss more. So, use a checklist. You know, have checklists for everything. Let's see. And this is the theory that I use. All right. And what it's on CKB sizzle. Curb, kitchen, bath, sizzle features. So the sizzle feature is like, maybe it's the white picket fence when everybody else has got wood, you know, it's a wood color. This is West Valley house. It's got a lot of extra money for some of those bi-level splits because they all look the same. So I put these little, I don't know, European balconies off the master. May not have a master bath. The little balcony goes a long way. It looks pretty cool. And it costs you $1,000 to do something like that, or $1,500 probably. So a little sizzle feature because people like to have something unique and feel like theirs are different. So curb appeal. When the driver of the car and your buyer shows up, so maybe this was 500 now. I got this one from Mass, wherever he's at. Yeah. This one's pretty funny, but it's the only metal roof that I know of east of like 15th East in Sugar House. And it's awesome. And let me tell you, just we talk about getting people to make lower, accept lower prices. That guy had a property listed for like $280,000. Matt got it down to 187, I think it was.
We got one this week. It's listed 9 months ago for $365. We got it for $250 yesterday.
So this was, he got that for 187. Wholesale to us made, I think it was 25,000 on the wholesale. We put about the same 60,000 into that one.
I can't remember.
Yeah, about 60 in that one. And sold it for 500 grand right after the market collapsed. In fact, our first buyer couldn't do financing. The doctor that was there financing its way to sell it to our next guy still made a chunk of money.
Is there any reason why we put a medical in the house when we talk?
Looks
and lifetime.
Because it's really becoming widely accepted across the country, but I haven't seen any here.
Metal roofs will last far longer than even the best shingles, but you have to have a good substrate. So you got to have a plywood roof. They got to be screwed in. It'll last for freaking ever. You can paint them if they get ugly. They're usually ugly. I've never seen a metal roof that wasn't galvanized. Galvanized is the exception. They'll last. I've never seen a steel roof that's ever worn out ever. And as a contractor, as an investor, anything.
Is it cost effective as opposed to alternative composites?
It's more money. It's easier to install. You can do a roof like that, in 2 days, probably a day. But like fencing yard, clean yard, you want to be able to impress your buyers. It's just get the curb appeal down there, get it going. You want a good front door. You want a fence if you can put it in. The concrete in the yard's got to look decent. It's got to have a good roof. Siding, brick, exterior, whatever. Deal with all those. Because what you want is yes at the curb, yes at the front door, yes as they walk into the living room or whatever the main room is, and yes as they walk into the kitchen. If you see a door like that in Salt Lake, nobody sells those. That's a house I did. And I get those at Door and Window Bargain. They're on 1314 South on 50th. They've been using them for years. So I have to make that door.
Don't flip that.
Yeah, they do windows, mostly doors. Hardly any windows anymore. They have some overstock stuff that occasionally do, mostly doors. So that's where we get our doors. They're quite a bit cheaper for everything that everywhere else we've done. And then, let's see, concrete foundation, you know, if it looks like